So today, Pentecost, we celebrate that God's Spirit has come upon all flesh, is the way the prophet Joel said it, and Peter talked about it. Men and women, young and old, slave and free, that God's Spirit would be upon us. And it came with this rush of a mighty wind. Rushes of mighty wind often are signals change has come. You know, yesterday it was sunny and warm, hot. Gentle breezes blew around. And then somewhere in the evening, did any of you notice, there was a rush of a mighty wind. And now we look out there and we got clouds and cool temperatures, cold temperatures. That rushes of mighty wind signal change. And that's what he was talking about, the author is talking about here in Acts 2, that a great change has come on these disciples. It's a spiritual change. It isn't... In terms of it's from God that this wind comes. The word spirit in the Greek means both, is the word pneuma, which means both spirit and wind. And I think they are very parallel when you think about them. You can't, as Jesus noted too, you can't see the wind. You can see what it does. You see it blows up dust or it moves the trees, that sort of thing. And the same with the Spirit of God. You can't see it, but you can see what it does. You can see how it moves, or you can feel it, in your hearts and your souls, and it changes people. It's this sense of God's change coming on these people. And for the disciples, it came with a mission. Jesus had told them that he wanted them to be his witnesses and go out across the world spreading the news of Jesus. And for me, that's a news that says the kingdom of God is near. That's what Jesus began with. That the God's loving presence, God's love for this world has come upon you, and his favor is on you. And the people looked at him and said, well, it feels like God is far. It seems like God is far. Because most of the people Jesus spoke to were poor. It wasn't going well. They suffered from hunger and diseases, They were under the thumb of the Roman military, a foreign military power. Things weren't well with them. They said, how can you say God is near? God feels far. And Jesus lived it out, and he showed him near as he healed the lepers. He ate with tax collectors. He fed the people in the wilderness. That he engaged all these people as a sign that God's kingdom and God was near, not far. And they opposed him and all the ways he taught about this kingdom. And finally they killed him. God's anointed, they killed him. But God raised him up to say, this is my beloved one, this is my beloved son. This is the one I honor. Here is my stamp of approval. I'm raising him from the dead, and here's your second chance. The Spirit is blowing your way. It's coming in on this rush of the mighty wind. You may have blown it with getting to know Jesus or following him or honoring him, but here's your chance. The Spirit is blowing in. If you will, catch it. Let it blow into your life. Maybe I can think about it kind of like a sailboat out on a lake. They launch from the shore, there's just the mast sticking out, no sails, and they're just kind of drifting around out there. And the winds are blowing, so finally they put a sail up. That's what I think God is asking these people, calling them to do. Put your sail up, catch this wind, let it energize you and carry you along with great speed. Put your sail up and catch the wind of God blowing your way. So how do you do that? Well, we have a good example, I think, in Martin Luther. For Martin Luther, of course, he grew up feeling judged, displeasing to God, like he was a nobody, and like he had to earn his way and to please God, and that he could never get it right. And all of a sudden, this word of grace came to him. That's how it hit him. Somehow he was open to receive this word of grace, that God just loved him for who he was. He didn't have to prove anything. He was loved for who he was, and he caught that, and of course, he spread that message. He witnessed through the printing press and all these different other people that caught on, and it changed people. Well, I think that same Spirit blows for us today. The question is, how do we catch it? How do we get our sails up that we might catch some of this wind? I think one of the key things that I think is helping us do this today is that we have, over the last a year or two, discerned a mission statement. So how do you catch a wind if you don't know where you're going and what you're going to do? We came up with this mission statement. In God's grace, Ascension creates faithful community. Moved by God's grace, maybe a little better. Ascension creates faithful community. And it really fits the day for these disciples because that's what they're going out to doing. They may be called to witness, but the ultimate goal was for them to create faithful communities. And by the end of Acts chapter 2, this chapter that I'm speaking on today, they have gathered several thousands of people together. And it says they're breaking bread together. They're fellowshipping with each other. They're praying together. They're sharing things together. That they become this community. Paul carries this forward all over the Mediterranean world, creating little faithful communities all over. The God's Spirit is blowing us to do this creation of faithful community. And I want to talk about 3 ways that I think makes us a faithful community. The first way is we know we belong and we help other people belong. It's called belonging. That's what makes for community. You know it is when you belong. Not only does someone greet you, but they talk to you. They get to know your story. They care about who you are. Things happen, they include you, let you know. And when you're not doing well, they contact you and they care for you. That's the stuff of community and belonging. That we do that. And in this world today, I think it's probably the top message, such a critical way to engage this world. A lot of us, me included, right? My family is scattered all over the U.S. So the belonging you got from family isn't always there like it used to be. Certainly the case for myself, as I said. So that sort of belonging's not there. I think we can isolate ourselves around watching electronic devices so we don't connect because we're stuck in our homes. We hole up in our homes too often. And maybe another critical way is we often can feel left out in the modern world. I mean, we have all these computers and the social media and all these things that are changing around us. And it's hard to keep up. I just got a new cell phone, and just the learning curve to get that up and running and calling tech to help me get stuff done. This just keeps coming at us. It's not going to slow down. And so we can often feel left out. To have a people where none of that stuff matters, where you're just belonging and you know it, is such a big deal. And that's what I think that community part. But for us, it's more than just a human community. There's a community where we belong to God, which gets to faith, which is the second quality I think that's so critical here. Part of the faithful community is having faith. And faith in this world, again, isn't always so easy because most of the world, it doesn't even come up. If you watch the media, if you watch, if you go to a school, if you look at popular culture, there's not much said about faith out there any longer. It just isn't. And what is said is more often than not negative. It's the bad example some Christian has set somewhere as something that's happened under the name of the religion that's bad out there. And so we get all these negative influences. We need places that support faith, that give us a reason to faith. And one of the great ways that happens is when we talk to each other. We tell our stories, and this doesn't happen just here, but maybe more importantly in your homes where you pray together and share your days together and reflect on how you have faith together. And we gather here to hear a word of God, to remind us God is active, that His Spirit is blowing, and get a sense of how we can get our sails up and feel a little of that, catch some of the Spirit, catch some faith. Third quality throw out there is purposeful living. Again, we live in a time that's pretty cynical, where a lot of times we get this sense that my life doesn't matter. I don't matter. What I do doesn't matter. Doesn't make much of a difference. It's all kind of, you throw up your hands and say, well, shoot, nothing changes, nothing really changes, and who cares? Very almost apathetic and cynical strains out there. And to have a sense that your life matters, that what you do matters is a huge thing, that you can do something and your life matters is a big deal, that you can make a difference, you can contribute in a way, and for me that roots again back to knowing God, that God has something for you to do, some gift of yours to use, some purpose that gives you meaning, and you contribute and purpose. So faithful community for us is a big deal here. And it's about And we are the ones committed, as they were in the beginning, to try to create that, to try to have that happen. And for us, the first thing, catch the Spirit, because that's the way it blows. Just put your sail up and say, yeah, I'm on this. I am a person who wants to see faithful community happen, and I'm ready to be a part of that. You know, back in a long time ago, there was a war in South Africa. And during this war of South Africa, a lot of people were getting hungry. They were short of a lot of things, and food was a big thing they were short of. And so this one town, this one community gathered the leaders together, and of course all the hungry people gathered around them to see what they could do about it. And in a small community in South Africa today, some of the biggest leaders were pastors. And they talked, and they decided, here's what we can do. We can have different pastors stand up and invite the people who are of their denomination to come with them. And they'll work with them to get them food. So, the pastors of big churches down there, Anglican and Reformed, and there's a few Lutherans and others down there, get standing up and say, hey, you guys who are with me, come along and, we'll work with you. Well, that all happens, of course. There's a whole bunch of people left out there. And this Salvation Army man just gets up and he says, hey, all you fellows and gals who belong to nobody, come with me. Now, the churches were trying to do their best and help solve a problem. So, not trying to throw stones at those other guys. But the guy that caught the Spirit of God was the Salvation Army guy. Because it wasn't about belonging here or there. It's finally just all of us are being swept along by the Spirit. Come in. You belong. You can have a place here. We'll work with you. And hopefully we'll turn you into not people we just serve, but people who can then turn around and serve even other people. Spirit of God invites us all us fellows and gals, all of us who have been at our best and know what it is to be at our worst. Come on. Catch the wind. Know you belong. That the faith can be built and strengthened. That you can live in purpose and know God's with you. So Pentecost, the Spirit has come.